Hi, I'm Joe Scacciaferro, and this is On Location. All right, this one I got one of my best friends. He's been around forever. He's so deep in my heart because he's a musician at heart, but he's in the TV game. Welcome,
That's
Dave
right.
Ryan.
Hey, how we doing?
We're doing great. How you doing?
Excellent, man. Just living my best life.
There you go. There you go. Dave, I'm going to, you and I have transitioned in and out of the music into television back again. You are in television known as an A1, which is what their
Correct.
version of audio engineering is. And in the music
Yes,
industry, you're a music recording engineer. And
that's
in the
right.
music industry, you're also a guitar player and
That's
a
right.
producer.
That's right. It's
So,
uh, it's been a wild ride.
yeah, yeah. So let's talk about your current gig. What are you doing right now? And then we're going to unpack that a little bit as to what some of those parameters are.
So right now I'm the A1 for CBS Mornings with Gail King, Nate Burleson, and Tony DeCopel on CBS.
Nice. And what does
Yeah,
that
I'm
mean?
also that means I am in charge of all things audio for the show, and we currently yeah, it's a lot. There's we have every day on the show is like 20 something cuts of music which we edit and put into the show. We have remote guests from all around the world, either joining us via fiber or you know um, via Zoom now, and um, all
And
sorts
so
of
when
different
you
ways.
say all things audio, so that
Yeah,
means that the cuts of music. So you're going in and out of break. The musics are your bumpers going in and out.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Because
So
don't
before the
forget, there's
show,
nobody. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So before the show, the producers give me a list of songs that they want to use depending on what stories they have and all that. And like, I cut the in times they want, and then I load it up onto this program called Enco, and I play the music in and out of the breaks. And right now, actually, the interesting thing about what we're doing is our studio is actually remote from our control room. So our control room is at 57th Street, and the studio is actually in Times Square. So when we built the studio, um, all the technical components of it back in, I want to say, like, I think it was 7 or 8 months ago. Now we launched, and so that's all remote on itself, and all the audio comes back via MADI over fiber, and which presents its own special challenges of delay and building separate mixes for ears. And and there's also an audio person down in Times Square who handles all the local mix, because the camera people and the stage managers, they have a separate mix than we send to air, because there's so much of a delay from the audio. I think the delay is actually mostly from the cameras, because they use wireless cameras. So to
Ah,
match lip sync, we have to delay the audio to air. So the audio that goes for local program has to be submixed at 15:15 in Times Square. So it's pretty complicated. So yeah, that's the local aspect of it, and then we have remotes all over the world. We have ties to London, DC, and I think they're always expanding on where the CBS has ties to via fiber, and yeah,
so
it's it's a lot.
those are what the industry calls flash studios. Is that kind of what those when you're saying your remotes? It's not a
Mm,
guy standing around with a camera. It's
no. It's a full blown. Yeah, yeah. So, well, it can be sometimes, right? Because if we have someone coming on the show who's in like a war zone or something like that, it is a guy standing around with a camera. So those are, if they call in, we have obviously like hybrids for them to call in on, as you know. Um, but the remote studio aspect of it, we have a studio in DC, which we'll have guests from time to time, and we'll do special reports out of. So, and those microphones come back to me also via Maddie and fiber. So it's yeah,
How do you deal with
it's
the delays? I mean, that's a lot of, and
yeah,
not
it's a lot,
not
man.
equal delays, different delays, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, honestly, I just over time I've just built out, on my file. Luckily, the console has enough delay resources where I delay every microphone, every line coming from DC is a certain amount of frames, and every line coming from 1515 has a certain amount of delay built in. And then if we play tape in the wall, there's a certain amount of delay you have to apply to that. And then it's just there's delay. Really, it's like a delay monster. There's probably I don't even know off the top of my head how many different delay numbers delay like I don't know how to word it. How many different things are delayed on my console? It's crazy, really.
What console is that?
So right now, CBS has at 1515, it's an SSL System T, which is the newer SSL offering, which is pretty cool console. And at 47 in at the broadcast center, there's a CalRec Alpha. So it's an older CalRec, but it's a workhorse, and I love it.
That's nice.
It just stays on all the time. It's like you trust it, and it's a great console. They're both great consoles. So
Dude, where
yeah,
did you learn all this shit?
yeah. I don't even know. We when we did 1515 to build the whole new studio for the show, I had to learn the SSL System T. I just got my hustle on, man. I just said I'm this. This is what I want to do. I better be good at it. So I actually really where I learned all the programming intercoms and AZ Edit and really understanding how audio works in a television network was I worked for their CBS's stream for a while called CBSN. That's how I broke in. And
Right.
what I did was in my downtime, I hustled. Like I read manuals. I wanted to make sure I knew everything I possibly could about the room, similar to what we did at the Giants. We're like, why doesn't this work? Let's find the drawings and go through it. And
Right.
I just I kept a good work ethic. I never got try not to rest on my like I don't want to ever feel like I'm just opening faders for a living. I want to know how the sound gets there, why it gets there. If I lose that feed, where can I go? I want to make sure I know all those things. So I put an emphasis on just learning and taking the opportunity to learn. I mean, it's to have that in front of you to look at and use it's an opportunity really to learn. So
So there's a lot of what you're talking about is a lot of self experience. I mean, self research. It's not like
yeah,
you can go to a class. It's not like you can
right.
go somewhere and somebody's going to teach you this. You got to figure it all out, and it's all
Yeah,
signal flow, but complex signal flow.
it's so I think one of the more challenging things is that when you go to work in a network, you have their infrastructure that's in place, right? And you may not know, so to speak, where where every where the bodies are buried, kind of thing, right? Like you don't know why there's, for example, our director has a mixer panel next to her, like an old school line mixer, because XYZ years ago they used to have a analog, just feed from the stage manager that went right there because some director in the past wanted it. And I remember we were doing a show out of the old evening news studio in which they now call the Hub, and they're like, "Why are we hearing the stage manager in the director position at 47?" I mean, how would I know that they ran there was copper going from the out, like how would you know that, right? But that's the kind of stuff that you just learn, and it's challenging because there's certain things you can't teach yourself. So I tried to teach myself everything I possibly could.
Isn't some of what you just described, or a lot of what you described, a tech manager's job?
Uh, I think in a non-union environment, maybe, but we're a union shop, so all tech things are done by the union guys and girls. So um, I don't really know. I mean, my experience is the tech managers kind of coordinate and set up the schedules and all that. So I guess it
But all
could
your
be.
routing and all your figuring things out and all of that,
Yeah.
that doesn't come from a technical person who you could go ask and say, blah, 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 blah. How does
No,
this work?
yeah, there's resources there, but there's you still have to, you know, there's people at definitely who have been there who I could lean on for support,
Right.
But there's still, if you're doing a live show and something's not working, you got to figure it out quick, and that's really where the,
Yeah.
you know,
So it's something obviously I've done my whole life is keep learning, keep figuring things out,
yes,
keep learning.
yeah,
So you stay current. Let's jump back. Let's go back a little bit. And I don't know if you're still doing it. You still doing
yeah.
any music mixes?
I'm not actually. So CBS, one of the reasons I love working there is we do music. Saturday morning has a music performance on every one of their shows. We do a live in studio 3 songs of bands come in, huge bands. They a lot of times they some bands right before they get big. Like we just had the Lumineers were on the show, and
Hmm.
they came in and brought like a ton of gear. And so those two worlds for me collide a lot. And I often, you'll appreciate this example. We're setting the band up, and it's all hands on deck. Everyone's helping, and the guitar player is like, I don't know, I'm not getting my guitar, and I knew it right away. I'm like, you have a loose pedal cable, and loose jumper, Like I just know the sounds. I've done it for so long, so I just there you go, you're done, you're good. So those two worlds collide for me a lot, actually. So I'm doing music there in that in that aspect. There's another guy I work with, Dominic, who has been mixing the bands for I don't even know however long the show's been around. He's been doing it, so I backfill him and I mix the bands when he's out. And as far as studio work, recording studio, not really at the moment, but I am still playing with the band Hidden in Plain View. I think we're actually going to go out and we're playing in Alabama, I think, soon. So they get gigs all over.
Wait,
Uh,
Alabama, the state?
Yeah, I don't know if that's announced yet, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, they get like gigs. They had a huge following, and we wrote a bunch of songs. And pre-pandemic, we were going to put some tunes out, and it just didn't happen because nothing happened. And yeah, so I'm still involved in that world a bit, and it feels really good. I feel really lucky to get to, play shows where there's people and
Yeah.
not have and get to make a living as well. It's a fun. It's super rare. I worked really hard to be good at what I do, but that's a pretty lucky combination.
Yeah, that is, and that's a rare combination because I'm sitting here. I had a bunch of questions about what do you see similarities as far as skill set? Like what
Oh yeah.
transitions over
Well,
between that and what you're doing now, which sounds very vast.
yeah. So things that you know, as far as a lot of things transfer over from working in a recording studio, but I think it depends on the kind of recording studio you work in. Now I don't know that a lot of people are using a ton of outboard gear, and I haven't. I think nowadays a lot of studios are sort of smaller in scale, and
Hmm.
I luckily worked in one that had a large enough. You were there. There
Yep.
was enough there for me to learn signal flow and how to mic up a drum kit properly.
Right.
That's sounds stupid, but when you work on a TV show and there's a band coming in and you're the A1, you're mixing it, you can talk people through these things like, hey, no, put the snare mic, make sure it's not in a certain spot, or the overheads have to be even to the snare for phasing, blah blah blah. And there are a ton of similarities, So, and Pro Tools is commonly used, and I think in a lot of television environments for post production and all sorts of things. So there's been a lot of stuff.
When bands show up, and this wasn't part of my conversation, but it's going to be now.
Yeah.
We both have a mutual friend, Mike Fortunato, who's a
Yes.
music A2, and he's
Right.
out, big that and going to the recording truck. But Mike does a lot of television. He started out doing GM, Good Morning America, and things
Yes.
like that when bands came on. So, do you have a music A2 who's out on the floor when bands are loading in? Question one with a follow up. It's like Jen Shockey. So my follow up question is: does the band who normally brings their own monitor mix, they bring a lot of their own people with them? Does
Right.
that interface to television, or they have to stay out in the truck?
So it does in some scenarios, right? Like, there's been we never if a band has a monitor person that comes to them and they have a file that they use and they're using the same console, they'll load it up and go to work, right? And we have our guy, our house person who's on our crew, who's our kind of music A2. He will help stand with them and just show them where the in-house sort of stuff is. We have a couple A2s actually who work on the show. Um, but as far as front of house mixers, I mean, once in a while, there's been bands who have actually rolled in their own consoles, like full blown, like truck full of gear, and everyone's looking at us like, "Are you kidding? Like, this is so much equipment." Like, sorry, I don't know what you want me to say. This is what the console they're bringing. It's huge. It is what
Right.
it is, and and they want them on the show, so they're gonna, who am I to say no? Like, but yeah, so we accommodate the bands. I mean, I think for sure, if especially with monitors, I would never stand in the way of a band's monitor person wanting to do monitors for the band they do for every night. It's like, why, So yeah, we're pretty open to them bringing people, but it's not all the time. That's a pretty long-winded answer. I'm not an interview
No, no, no,
television
that's
interview.
not. Actually, it's not long-winded. I mean,
Okay.
you're setting up other questions, which is
Yeah.
because I can't stop asking. So when you're talking about a monitor mix,
Yeah.
in a TV studio is a different environment than in a music recording studio or live on a
Right.
stage. So
Yes.
that's like a major difference between those three events: live concerts, recording
Yes.
studio, and a television studio. But they're all the same band.
Two of the three have beer. That's the main. That's the main. Television studios. There's not much beer backstage. You got some Diet Pepsi and coffee, but no. Yeah. So there is major. I think the major difference between the three, as far as like, in my opinion, technically, is in a television studio. The monitor mixer is similar, more similar to, you don't have a front of house person in television. In our scenario, you don't. I mean, some TV shows do have front of house people if there's an audience, right?
Right, right.
But our monitor person just feeds the ears, their in ears or their wedges, and the broadcast mixer mixes for air. And actually, it's whatever he does or I do on the board mixing the band, doesn't none of that goes back to the monitor person. So it's in that aspect, it's similar to um,
So it is two
live.
completely separate mixes.
Yeah, it's a split, right? So, but in a recording studio, at least in my experience, you never have a monitor person. If someone
Right.
wants more guitar, you just change it in their output to their ears. So that's sort of a one man band scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which another thing you learn, right? Working in a recording studio, how not to blow somebody's ears out, and little things, because these in-ear monitors are right next to people's eardrums, and it's kind of a big deal. You don't want to blast somebody full of
Yeah.
tone, or I mean, it's no joke. It's for
No,
real.
that's
So
not a joke. I mean,
yeah,
let's go off that and go off music and
yeah,
back to just talent on a set. I mean, I've been places where somebody routed the wrong thing to the wrong place and it hits an IFB on set and
yeah.
somebody blows tone through an IFB. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people just throw their IFB off their ears.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's happened for sure.
It's so painful.
Yeah, it's a real thing. I mean, learning how to as a monitor person is I think is the hardest job in audio, to be honest. Like for me, like I don't normally mix monitors because you're essentially trying to make, let's say there's five people in the band, you're trying to make five people happy. And
Yeah.
they're a little nervous, right? Because they're performing on TV. And then you have to get a perfect mix for all their ears. And everyone's always kind of like, let's go, let's go, let's go. Why aren't you done yet? And you're like, well, I'm doing five mixes here for this in people's ears.
That's
So it's
That's
yeah,
a big point. That's a big
yeah,
thing. Like obviously works concerts over my entire lifetime.
Yeah,
You miss Curtin, nobody cares. The fans,
right.
you know, they're getting antsy and they're yelling, but it doesn't really matter. But if you're on
Yes.
television, it matters a
Oh,
lot.
yeah. I mean, we pre-tape our band performances. Like we've done some little things live, but for the most part, a lot of our we tape a lot of the stuff beforehand. But yeah, even then, like there's schedules involved, and no one wants to pay for an extra XYZ amount of hours for of overtime for the crew. No, yeah, but the band's got places they got to be, right? They're doing stuff that day. So if you're having issues, or if you got to know what you're doing, and the it's pressure really. There's a little more pressure in the television environment than there is, I think, in the TV, in the live concert environment or the recording studio environment. There's
Yeah,
definitely more
you're also
pressure.
outside of the culture. I mean, when you're
Right.
in those places, everybody's a musician. Everybody knows the music industry. The culture's the
Exactly.
same. They're kind of forgiving. Television, not so much.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely, that's a huge thing. I mean, if you're taking a while, I mean, I remember working in the studio and you do a vocal take for a couple hours. So, they're like,
Right.
oh, I just need to get it again. A TV, they're like, that's, why is this taking so long? I don't know. Maybe because it's incredibly complicated and it takes a long time to do it.
Right.
But it's not every, yeah, exactly. Not everybody's a musician or in the music business or a recording engineer in those environments, so they don't understand.
Yeah.
So
Let's go. Let me go back to 2020. You mentioned it briefly.
yeah,
What was that all about for you guys? I mean, I know there
yeah,
was a big pivot to virtual.
yeah.
But how did you get through that? What was your pivot or end result?
So what happened actually for me in 2020, right when COVID hit, um, I got like sick. Me and my wife got colds, and the next day they shut the broad like they shut everything down because they're like, COVID is here. And I don't know if we had it or not, but I know that we were sick and it was strange. But the show actually moved to the Ed Sullivan Theater. Right, that's where they use the control room for the Ed Sullivan Theater because they shut the broadcast center down. Yeah, so then everyone was at home on. I think they all zoomed in, not Zoom. It was a couple of them were the hosts were on Zoom, and then they got like remote cameras out to them with Live View. We use Live
Right.
View. That's the name I was looking for. Remember back in the day, we used to use the Live View backpack when
Yes,
back then.
that's still a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, it's a huge thing. We use Live Views all the time. It's like
Yeah.
it's crazy because when I saw them, I'm like, wow, people, this is a big thing, Because remember, you had a prototype at the
Yeah.
MetLife. Remember that? And Mike
Yeah.
Beckton had the backpack on with the camera, with
Yep.
Anita and the wireless microphone, and it was broadcasting out to the internet. And I was like, man, that's crazy. And
Yeah.
yeah, so we use a lot of live view stuff, and I think they used live views from home, and the control room was in. We used the control room at Ed Sullivan, but I missed the first few weeks of that because I was sick and I didn't want to go back into the building if I had something or whatnot. So
Yeah, CBS was kind of at the epicenter. New York was the epicenter, and it seems
yeah,
CBS was at the center of the epicenter.
yeah. I don't, it's hard to like remember because it feels like now it just feels like one giant blur, right? Like
Yeah.
COVID, it just feels like it was always something, and yeah, it was crazy.
So you apparently
CBS.
you weren't out of work during that time.
No, no, I'm staff employee. So, which CBS took care of, in my opinion, took care of their people, and it was good for us, And I was working too. I worked like crazy. Once I came back, because people, in that environment, you have just so many people who can do the job, right? And then
Right.
you all have to wear masks and test all the time. And not to mention, when you first were getting tested, I'm sure you remember, it was the deep brain swab one, which was like, God damn, this is brutal. And I'm like, if they have to do this every day, I don't think I can do this every day. But if one person got sick, that they're in contact in an audio room with another person, and then maybe they cross. So CBS did a good job of staggering everybody,
Right.
and so that way there wasn't too much. Like if someone got sick, it didn't seem like to me as an employee, it didn't seem like a bunch of people got sick from that. Yeah.
And you didn't
So
go, you didn't, they didn't have you working, you weren't doing a mix from home. Like you were still
no,
going in physically into the brick and mortar.
we were going into Ed Sullivan Theater. That's
Right.
where we started going in when they shut the broadcast center down. We went into Ed Sullivan Theater to do the show, and I know some we our console the Alpha, since it's the older Calrec, we weren't quite ready. I don't think technically to do something like that from home. I know a lot of shows did do that, like sports networks and things like that. But I haven't mixed live TV from home yet. But to be honest, I don't look forward to it. It seems, when my power goes out and all of a sudden the show doesn't get on the air, like I don't want that
Yeah. No,
responsibility,
there was a lot. Yeah. There was a
you
lot of
know?
that. Yeah, that became a thing. And actually we were doing well because we figured out how to harness all that tech
Yeah.
and, and roll it out. Um, what happened when you, what happened? How did, when you first went from musician to studio, what was that transition and why did you transition over?
Just a general obsession with the way records I love sounded for me. I mean, I loved, my favorite producer of all time is a guy named Jerry Finn, and I thought everything he did was just the best thing I've ever heard. Alkaline Trio and all those bands, just I loved it. I just wanted to make music that sounded like that, and I got into recording, and I went to school for broadcasting by accident, which is kind of funny, and actually how we met. Because I went to William Patterson, which has a good broadcasting and TV
Yeah.
department.
Yeah.
But
Very
the
good.
reason I went so I wanted to go to school for music. They have a good music program, but they wanted me to do a vocal audition. And I'm like, I don't want to sing in front of people. This is embarrassing. So I was like, well, if I can do TV, they'll let me in the recording studios. And then here we are, man. But so I did that, and I worked in the recording studios there, so I could learn a little bit. And then I ended up interning at that studio and becoming good friends with Rob, and he taught me a ton of stuff. And then I got my job with you because I gave you my band's demo at a UPS store.
Right.
Remember that? And you were
Yeah.
like, "Well, why don't you come? You're in school for TV, right?" I was like, "Yeah." You're like, "Why don't you come work with the Giants?" And I was like, "The Giants."
Yeah.
And here we are, man. So
It's so funny because anybody from that era, when they say, and if people don't really understand what that means, when they say we
yeah,
went to work for the Giants, well, why do you need an A1 for the Giants? Or wait a minute, why is a
yeah,
jib op working for the Giants?
yeah, yeah.
Because the Giants is the content. It's the
Right.
television shows that surrounded the Giants is what we did. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what the production company did. So
yeah,
it always brings a smile to my face when people just cavalierly just say, yeah, 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 we worked for the Giants for a couple of years. I was their A1, or I worked for the Giants and I was their camera guy. And I was like, like you weren't.
true. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
yeah, right. We worked for a production company that had a significant amount of work for the New York Football Giants for
right.
a while,
That's
which sounds better, but
yeah, but everybody short circuits it. Even myself, you
yeah,
know,
yeah. It's just easier
even
to
my
say.
family says it. You're still
Yeah,
working for the Giants? I was like, I never actually worked for the Giants.
yeah. They were a client technically,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly what they are. They were a client. So
Yeah.
when you transitioned into the music studio, you said something very quickly and very briefly. He taught you a lot.
Yes.
So again, here you are back in that same position. You're learning while you're on the job, and you're
Yeah.
learning from apprentice master sort of relationship.
Yeah. I mean, Rob. His name's Rob Freeman. He's a record producer. He's still doing it. He's a good friend of mine, actually. Now, very good friend of mine, and I play in a band with him actually. And yeah, he was so selfless. I mean, the guy. You can imagine, especially in a sort of in a studio where your livelihood is bands coming to you because your stuff sounds great. You don't want to give your secrets and tricks to every person coming through, right? How do you get your drums to sound that way? He was so open with me, and I thought that was amazing, and I learned so much from him. So I just, I don't know that I would have been that open with everyone. The thing is, I think for him, he's such a talented person. His tricks, they're not the reason why his stuff sounds so good. It sounds so good because he's like crazy talented. But
Right.
yeah, but I used to, he would be like, "We're setting up drums tomorrow. You want to get here early, and we'll set the drums up and go over it." And I get there early, and we go over it, and you know, it's opportunity is not what's they saying. Opportunity doesn't always. Sometimes it looks like overalls or whatever that
I
saying
don't know
is.
what that
Yeah.
is.
No,
I think
I
that one
just
got past me. I don't know
yeah.
anything
No,
about
I just
overalls and opportunities.
well, I was wearing overalls at the recording studio. So no, yeah, I just worked hard, right? Like you get an opportunity like that to be in that environment and you want to be there. I mean, come on, like that's the good stuff.
Yeah.
So
When you went started in television, when you got past the Giants, when you started in television and had to go out and find freelance work
Feral
because
Productions, excuse me.
we only worked during the season. I mean
Yes,
that was because we were producing television that existed during the football season. So after
right.
that, you were thrown back into go figure out what you want to do for the rest of your days.
Yeah, that was cool too. I actually went. I think the first off season, I booked a lot of music stuff because I started doing my own bands, and I did this one band. They were called Breathing Blue, and like a bunch of local bands liked the way it sounded, and I ended up getting a ton of work, and it actually spanned my off season, that off season, and then the next. I think it was the next off season, or maybe the off season after that. I can't remember. I ended up working for Bloomberg Television, and then
Oh,
I took a
right. I
staff
remember
job
that.
there. Remember that? Yeah, and I actually from there I learned that's where they had CalRex, and it was good experience. But I actually quit that job to go on tour with my band because we signed a little indie deal, and I left.
Only a
Yeah,
musician would do that.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
have a
yeah.
job
That
at
was
Bloomberg's. I have a regular, real job, and I'm working at Bloomberg. But you know what? I'm going to go on tour in a van. See ya.
yeah. Well, what can I say? I remember talking to my dad about it and saying, Bloomberg is if I'm going to do TV, I want to do real TV. I want to be doing not that it's not real TV, but it's finance television. I
Yeah.
want to work for a network, right? If I'm going to do this thing, I want to be all in. So here was an opportunity to be all in on our band at the time, and I'm proud that we went for it. We toured the U.S., put an album out. Didn't ended up working out, but I ended up getting to CBS, and that was part of the thing. I think that when I got to CBS, I realized the amount of work. I'm like, I'm just gonna work my tail off and see where it takes me. And so far, so good.
How did you land the CBS gig in that Bloomberg was really Bloomberg and us were your only real two experiences?
So one of the guys at Bloomberg actually left to go work for CBS, and he kind of connected me, and
Mm-hmm.
we still work together. Actually, he's the audio mixer at 1515. He does the local mix for the show in the morning. So he and I are still working together every day.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
something else I've been hearing throughout your entire career navigating is the network. How important having a net, not little n network,
yeah,
having a community, if you will, of people around you and staying in touch with them
yeah.
to keep moving you forward. Would you say that was probably key?
I was. That's the only thing, really. I mean, how in this that's the most important thing is having a network of people who know you, know your work, and can help you find work when you need it. So yeah, it's
Yep.
the most important thing, definitely.
Yeah, because even in your music thing, when you said the band, one band, and everybody liked that sound, but that band
Yeah,
then moved you into other, again, network, community. I
yeah.
mean, every
I mean,
recording studio I know works that way. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, yeah. That's it. That's the whole thing, man. It's the whole, and even in television, it's a small business, so you always gotta, you know, you know, be put a smile on your face and be a good person. And it's every entertainment. In my experience, everyone. Um, it couldn't feel smaller. It's a very small business, and when you meet someone, they know someone you know, and then all of a sudden
Yep.
a bunch of people in the business. So
It's
yeah, it's
hard
really
for
important.
people outside of these industries to realize. Now, I've been fortunate. I've worked in a lot of different sectors, and I knew early on that nothing is as big as it looks like it is. But when
Yes.
people think broadcast, young guys coming out of school, 24, and you're a young woman and you're trying to break into this business, you're
Yeah.
looking at this massive, oh my God, television or Hollywood film or
Yeah.
Broadway theater. They just seem so big, and there's so
Yeah.
many people. And when you get into it, you realize there's 8 people. That's it.
Yeah. That's the truth, man. It's
Yeah,
uh, once you pull back the curtain a little bit, um, actually, is I think that's a good point. Is the more you learn about what you're doing and how things work, that curtain gets pulled back further and further and further, and
right.
you really understand what's going on, and then it doesn't seem so big and intimidating. So yeah, I definitely felt that way going in. I was like, oh my god, how am I ever going to do this, man? You know,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
you
I'm sitting
figure it
here.
out.
When you were rattling off all that stuff in the beginning, I'm sitting here going, you know what? Like dads sometimes lose track of how smart their kids got or
Yeah,
how much their kids know. And a
yeah,
lot of you who came in, young and green,
yeah.
I would now talk to you and go, holy crap, this guy knows a lot of stuff. When did that happen?
Phew. Yeah, man. Well,
Yeah.
it's
Was
sort
the
of like
culture hard?
yeah,
I'm not going to say I didn't mean to interrupt because I actually did. It does. Did, did the culture have any bearing on your approach to it? Because you're coming out of the music world, and
yeah,
even working for Ferro, we're more music than even though we're
yeah,
not. We're more back of the classroom group of people than we
definitely.
are a corporate environment. So then when
Right.
you transition into Bloomberg,
Yeah.
and then you go on the road, and then you come back. Yeah, other than schizophrenia, how do you deal with that?
Schizophrenia. No, I I think I just had different motivations at different times in my life. Music, and I remember you saying something to me one time about how music is almost like a drug. It kind of like pulls you back in, and you're like, oh, I could do music for a living, and then you kind of like sober up, and you're like, this is kind of tough to do full time for a living, unless you're, Bruno Mars or somebody, which they do exist. Um, I think for me, I had different motivations at different times in my life, and they, so far, right? I mean, they pushed me to work hard in those uh, moments and adapt to the culture that was there, right? Like I'm not going to walk into CBS with ripped jeans and a backwards hat and and sup, dude? What's good? I'm not. That was the music culture, because
Right.
in the same breath, you don't want to walk on stage in khakis and a polo and perform at one of those places, all those clubs we played at. But yeah,
Yeah.
so you just adapt. Yeah, you kind of adapt to it, and yeah,
Yeah. I've always said, I mean, it was always funny when people asked that question. And I said, in my closet, I have these clothes that when I go to a network, I wear them. When I go to music, I wear these. When I'm going on location, I wear these.
yeah,
And my closet's divided because it's the appropriate uniform for whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. And you
Hey,
definitely
man,
just nailed it. Yeah.
that's all businesses really when you think about it, right? Some
Yeah.
days you got to wear a suit. Some days you got to wear khakis and a golf shirt. But
Yeah.
for us, it's a
I
little
don't,
different.
I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever put wearing khakis. So
I haven't really either.
anyway, bud, we run out of time. This was great. It was exactly what I was hoping for.
All right.
Although you are way smarter than I thought you would have evolved to. Like you're like crazy smart now. Like I'll call
Really?
you up and ask you questions. Oh yeah, dude. Are you kidding?
I'm no different, man. Same dude.
No, you're the same. That hasn't changed. but your knowledge base has increased tremendously.
It really has, I have to say. I think about that sometimes. I'm like, I used to be kind of a ditz. Hey, gotta do
I
what you
never
gotta
remember that guy, but I do remember
do.
that you had basic skills. I mean, basic in our industry and in the recording industry, and that
Yeah,
your skills were equivalent to that. But
yeah,
now you've risen to this, like I asked you, the tech managers. I talk to a lot of technical people in the industries, and I don't think a lot of them can speak as intelligently as you did early on in this interview. And you weren't speaking, you weren't blowing smoke, because I know the difference.
yeah,
You actually know that stuff. Whether you
yeah,
need to or not, that's different. But
yeah.
you taught yourself how to know it. Great. Kudos.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, brother.
Yeah, I guess I'll talk to you soon.
Ciao.
Take care.